Welcome to the Joy of Cruising podcast with your host, award-winning author Paul C. Thornton, a weekly conversation with the amazing cruisers featured in the Joy of Cruising books comprised of The Joy of Cruising, Cruising Interrupted, new release, The Joy of Cruising Again, as well as other fun, informative, global cruise personalities. It is the next best thing to cruising, hearing about cruising from the unique and diverse perspectives of Paul's amazing guests. If you hear about a cruise that interests you, book it at www.thejoyofcruising.net. It helps support the channel through our partnership with Where's Walters Travel. We really appreciate your feedback, so leave us a text. Paul can't reply, but he may read your text on air.
Hello, passionate cruisers. This is Paul, and this week on the Joy of Cruising podcast, I am delighted to welcome Alex Robertson, creator of Alex the Cruiser, internet persona and major cruise Facebook and Instagram cruise personality. Alex has been cruising since he was 5 years old and has over 150 days at sea under his belt. He currently has his 27th, 28th, and 29th cruises booked, and he just can't get enough of the cruising lifestyle. Alex is a social media influencer who is renowned for his real-time cruising experiences. His Facebook pages, including his personal page, have a combined following of over 130,000 people, with 30,000 of those followers on his personal page alone. His passion for cruising is infectious. He loves nothing more than sharing his experiences with fellow cruise enthusiasts. In addition to his social media presence, Alex has recently started making and selling custom cruise decorations, including personalized koozies and wooden cabin door signs, which have become a fan favorite. He works closely with Derek and Amanda from Island Time Travel, and they have a large group cruise planned for the very first sailing out of Galveston on the MSC Seascape on November 9th, 2025, with 100 rooms already booked. Alex and his friends are eagerly counting down the days until they can set sail again. Welcome, Alex, to the Joy of Cruising podcast.
Thank you so much, Paul. Thanks for having me today.
So how you doing?
Man, I am great. I have caught up on sleep. I just got back from a cruise and started back at work today. And man, I think I'm going to start packing my bags for another cruise here pretty soon.
Where'd you go? Tell us all about it.
So the past month, actually, I've been on two. I went on the Carnival Jubilee exactly a month ago. And then
the big one,
yes,
the new one.
Yes, sir. And she is beautiful. I also just a couple of nights ago got back from Alaska, went on the Carnival Luminosa, and that was, a 10 out of 10, breathtaking, highly recommend going on an Alaska.
Now, man, so much to talk about. Now, I had gone on the Carnival XL class. That's what Jubilee is, right?
Yes, sir.
Was that your first time on the XL class?
It was my second. My first XL class ship was the Mardi Gras back in 2022, and that was just to experience it for the first time. Especially if you've cruised on Carnival so many times, most of their ships, if not all of them, are pretty much laid out exactly the same. They just have different names for different venues. But to step foot on the XL class ship for the first time, it was like going on a cruise for the first time because everything's different. It was just overwhelming, but it was incredible.
Yeah, I loved Mardi Gras. I went on with my granddaughter. We celebrated her 13th birthday on Mardi Gras.
Oh, that's a great cruise for a 13th birthday.
Did you notice any significant differences between Jubilee and Mardi Gras?
I wouldn't say any crazy differences, but I will say that I love that Carnival did put the extra touch of Texas on that ship. Christine Duffy said at the naming ceremony that she's not going to be leaving for a very long time, if at all. And, they've got that big Texas star right up front. I don't think she's going anywhere, and I can't wait to get on that ship again.
Why Texas? Is that the one that's going to be home ported in Galveston?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then your other one just got back from is the Alaska, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. Couple of things about that. I love Alaska. Was this your first time?
This was my third. To
oh, wow.
Yes. But if you've been, the weather changes there so much. It's, the last time I was there, it was nice and sunny. This time, it was the same exact time as I went last year. This time it was it was cloudy and it was rainy and pretty moody outside, and it completely changes the entire vacation. I loved it. I loved the weather this time.
Yeah, we're definitely going back. We overpacked. We went in, I guess we went in early May when we went, which is not too different than you.
Yep.
But we had packed all of this, thermal underwear and these heavy duty gloves. And my daughter bought me some waterproof hunter boots. We didn't need any of that.
Yep, exactly.
It never rained. I had read all of this stuff online about it's like the rainiest state in the country or something like that. And it never rained. It never, the coldest it ever got, it got down to 40.
Yeah.
But then there was one day we were in Ketchikan, and I saw, not me, but I saw guys in short sleeve shirts.
Oh, yeah.
It was sunny.
Yep.
It was sunny. It wasn't hot. It wasn't hot enough for short sleeves, but I guess, any excuse to get out of,
Yes.
to put on a short sleeve shirt in Alaska.
And that's one of the things I tell people when they start packing for a trip. If you're going to be packing for the Caribbean, you could start packing a year in advance because essentially how that weather is going to be. But when it comes to Alaska, I always tell people, hey, don't start packing until you check that weather a couple of days before you get on the ship, because this time it did rain a little bit on us and I just had a raincoat and it was perfect. But you're right, there were days where I wanted to take the jacket off and just be in my short sleeve shirt because I was just so tired of being bundled up the whole time.
Yeah.
Now, this is the second year that the Luminosa has been under Carnival's brand.
That's one of those Costa-built Carnival ships.
Let me tell you, I was really nervous about going on that ship just because of everything I've read. I love eating at Guy's Burgers. There's nothing better than any time of day on a Carnival ship, sit down and have a Guy's Burger, and it's going to make your trip 10 times better. But this time, this ship did not have Guy's Burger. And I was wondering, yeah. So that's one of the things that they didn't change. And let me tell you, and I have not even really said this on social media, but I kind of like the Carnival Luminosa's hamburgers, maybe a little bit better than Guy's.
Oh, wow.
It was so good.
Now, did they have a special venue for hamburgers, or was it just kind of the buffet or something like that?
They did. And, I forgot what the name of that venue is, but they did. It was specific just for the burger. And it's very similar to how the Guy's Burger is. They have almost the same type of burgers. You can add chili to it. You can have, of course, as much bacon as you want. And they have a little station off to the side for the sides. But that is one thing that I did appreciate is it might not be a Guy's Burger joint, but they at least had its own separate venue for it. And they didn't just put it in the buffet area.
So what other noticeable differences from Carnival were there? From, the traditional Carnival ships.
Yeah, so they did not have the Blue Iguana where you could get your burritos and things like that, but they did have their own specific area that was just called burritos and tacos. And I had a burrito one evening, and very similar to my experience with Guy's, it was pretty much the same, if not a little bit better.
Okay.
I'm sorry, not Guy. Yeah, it was similar to what Guy's was. It was just a little bit better, I thought.
I wonder, does that portend anything for the future? I know that, I can't remember what, but there's something recently that Royal Caribbean, they used to sort of outsource it, and then they kind of put it under their own brand. So that might be a trend. I suspect that's a cost-cutting move because I would assume, with these branded venues, you got to pay, that affects your licensing fees and all that. Yeah,
absolutely. And there's just the entire vibe of the Luminosa, I would say, was a lot different than what I've experienced on Carnival. I think going to Alaska, you're going to experience a different type of cruising, whether, you're in Alaska or the Caribbean. Alaska is going to be so much different. And Paul, you've just the clientele, like the people are a little bit older, there's hardly any kids on the ship. And I tell you what, that's kind of my cruising vibe. I love to cruise and just chill out and just hang out and not have to worry about going to the next bar or anything like that. I really, really love the Luminosa, and I'm actually going back in about 4 weeks.
Oh, wow.
to Alaska again. Yeah, I loved it that much.
Well, then you really like.
Yeah, it was great.
Now, how about one of the things that I say all the time? No one does comedy like Carnival. Does Carnival have a big place on Luminosa?
They don't have a super big place, but they do have an area, and it's right next to the coffee shop, Java Blue. And they also had one evening they had a comedian inside of the main theater.
Pretty good.
Oh yeah. I really enjoyed it.
Well, Alex, we just kind of got right into it, talking about cruising, because as you can talk about cruising all day, I can talk about cruising all day. But before we go any further, I should have asked you to introduce yourself to our listeners. So tell our listeners about yourself, where you're from, where you live, your professional background, anything you would like to share.
Absolutely. Well, once again, thank you so much for having me. I've been a listener for so long, and when I got that email from you to join the show, I was really excited. So thank you so much. Absolutely. And as everybody knows me by now, my name is Alex Robertson, and also known as Alex the Cruiser. I am 33 years old, and I've been cruising since I was 5. I was born and raised in a little town outside of Fort Worth, Texas, and I'm still here. I left for a couple of years, and I came back home. I love my little town. It's called Azle, so it's really, really small. You can hardly find it on the map. And my 9 to 5 is I work remote. I work in human resources for a pretty large healthcare company, and I work in new hire onboarding. So if you ever apply for a job, you're going to have to get a drug test and a background check and go to orientation. I kind of help schedule all of that, and I track everything. And then once you're cleared through the background check, I send you over to your hiring manager and go from there. But like I said, it's remote. So that's one of the greatest blessings about, my position that I'm in, is I get to travel and work. So a lot of people ask me all the time, you must have unlimited PTO. That is not the case. I'm still allowed a couple of weeks of PTO a year where I actually get to decompress and clock out for the whole week. But most of the time, you can find me working. I visit my mom in Lake Tahoe a lot. I usually spend every Thanksgiving there, and it's nice to just wake up and work and be in a new place.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that. So I ask every guest about their cruising background. Talk about yours, starting with the first cruise. When and what ship?
So it was 1995. I had to ask my mom this information before I came on, but the cruise ship was called the Enchanted Isle. It is now out of commission, and we sailed out of New Orleans. And I might be wrong on this, but I'm pretty sure the Enchanted Isle, whoever purchased it from that company, they actually sank it on purpose for the reef system, which I thought was pretty neat. And I know they do that with some of the ships. Yeah, I do remember that ship a little bit, because we sailed out of New Orleans and we went through the Mississippi River, as you know, until you get to the Gulf. I was 5, so I really don't remember too much. Luckily, there's quite a bit of video recording of us in Jamaica and going down a water slide into the ocean. And when I get to see videos like that, it kind of does bring back memories. But I'll tell you, the cruise that I remember the most, that was my first, I was 10 years old, and it was the year 2000, and my parents took me and my brother on the Carnival Celebration, the original celebration out of Galveston. And that was such a fun ship. I remember, if you've ever had an ocean view room, a lot of times the windows are pretty deep, and so you could actually sit in that windowsill. And as a 10-year-old, I just remember sitting in that windowsill all the time, looking out the window and just seeing all the different sights. And I really, really loved that cruise. And honestly, I've been cruising nonstop ever since. I definitely have the cruising bug.
What would you say is your favorite cruise line?
Well, I might make a lot of people mad when I say this, but I'm definitely a Carnival guy. All of my cruises but 4 have actually been on Carnival. And the reason I stick true to Carnival is I would love to check out, other ships and other lines, but Carnival, they just really get me on those really good casino deals. You just put a little bit of money in the casino on your trip, and those free offers just come in nonstop. At least they have for me. And I'm kind of loyal to Carnival for that reason.
Yeah, maybe offline we can chat and talk about how that works. Because when
Absolutely.
I hear people talking about cheap cruises through the casino, I have no idea how that works, but I get a little jealous.
It's pretty incredible. I mean, a good friend of mine is a travel agent, and he tells me anytime anybody ever contacts me for a quote to go to Alaska in a balcony, he says you're going to pay around $5,000, depending on which line you go on. But he says that's a pretty good rough estimate. And I had on the Luminosa, I had an aft facing premium balcony for two people. I paid $1,100 and I had $200 of onboard credit. So how do you say no to an offer like that?
How long have you been known as Alex the Cruiser?
That's a good question. And I was thinking about that because somebody else asked me that the other day. They said, "Where did that even start?" And honestly, I think I've adopted that name now maybe for about 4 years. I think it was during COVID, when COVID first happened. I was running out of material to post, and I think a lot of bloggers and social media influencers felt the same. During COVID, they didn't really have much to post because they weren't able to cruise, and so I kind of adopted that name. Um, when I do videos and things like that, I always introduce myself as Alex the Cruiser. But when it comes to Facebook and posting on my social media, I always just go by Alex Robertson. 10 years ago, I went on the Royal Caribbean Navigator of the Seas with one of my best friends. And 10 years ago is when a lot of these cruising Facebook groups started. And so I noticed that there was a cruise group for Galveston that was for Carnival. So I didn't want to copy them and try to start my own. I did a lot of research and noticed that there wasn't any Facebook groups for Royal Caribbean, and I had just gotten back from my first Royal Caribbean cruise. So 10 years ago, almost to the day, I started Galveston Royal Caribbean Cruises Facebook page, and we have been growing ever since. I'm just shy of around 80,000 members in the group, and that is where I go and I share all of my content, most of my content. And so I guess you could say I've been in the influencer stage for about 10 years now, but I really started getting into the influencer scene about a year and a half, 2 years ago.
So when you named the group Royal Caribbean Galveston Cruisers, did it have to do with the Galveston port? Or was it because you were residing in Galveston? What was the Galveston aspect of the title?
So I knew that Galveston, the port of Galveston, was growing. 10 years ago, I had no idea it would be where it is now. The port of Galveston is expanding like wildfire, and I would love to get into that here in just a little bit. But Galveston is my home port. I live in the Fort Worth area, so it's about a 5.5 hour drive. So it's one of the ports where, you don't ever have to fly. And plus flying into Houston, you'd still have another hour or so drive to get to Galveston. But I just think the timing worked. I think coming back from my first Royal Caribbean cruise, there wasn't any information like that on Facebook in Galveston. So I thought, hey, let's go ahead and give this a try. And it's been really, really successful.
So I take it Royal has a fair amount of ships that leave out of Galveston.
They do. And the Allure of the Seas will be coming back. But right now we have Harmony of the Seas. That's essentially their mega ship. I mean, it's a Oasis size class. But they've got some other smaller ships in there. We're really hoping in the next couple of years we get an Icon class ship. Hopefully it'll be Icon of the Seas. I know she just came out a couple of months ago, but the terminal there, Royal Caribbean's terminal, they're equipped for an Icon class ship. So any day now, I'm just waiting for that news to come out, and I'm greatly excited for that one.
Hey, do you know Nick from Travels with Nick?
Oh yeah, Nick J.
Yeah, yes.
Oh yeah, he's great. I met him for the first time actually when April 20th, when I left on the Jubilee. I was messaging him on Instagram and I was like, "Hey man, I sure would love to meet you." And I call him the king of Galveston because he is the person that you hear over the announcements. He tells you when it's time to board. He is running around. He runs that place, and I cannot wait to see where his future takes him. I mean, he is 100% in the cruise director role when it comes to running the Port of Galveston. He's incredible at what he
Well,
does.
I'm glad that you said that. I'm sure Nick's going to be proud you said that. Nick's been, I wrote about Nick. I featured him in my last book, or my most recent
Oh,
book.
cool.
It's called The Joy of Cruising Again. And then he's been on the show twice. So I know he
That's
he
awesome.
works at Galveston. I wanted to see if you knew him, and I'm glad that we're able to give him a shout out. Hey, Nick.
Yeah, what's up, Nick? It was great meeting you a month ago. It was awesome.
Kind of involved in the cruise influencing space before the pandemic, but then the pandemic came. How did that impact you? Did you kind of like lay low, just kind of put up, some of your old videos, take a pause from, YouTube? I mean, what was that like for you?
So it was such an odd time, as you can definitely remember. What I did is I just started reposting a lot of my older stuff. I would make videos, and really I would do my best to post cruise news. But it seems like every time I made a Facebook post, it was always about, well, I had another cruise canceled. I think I had probably 5 or 6 canceled during that time that of the shutdown. And I don't know if you had any cruises planned during that time and have them canceled, but I can't
Absolutely.
to get that email that says we're so sorry, we're going to have to still pause operations. It was like a knife to the chest every single time. I felt so defeated, but I just kept booking them. And finally, back in 2022, I got to take my dad, and it was really fun on the Mardi Gras.
So then came Liberation, and so was Mardi Gras your first cruise back?
It was. They had just changed the masking policy for cruise passengers, but the crew still had to wear their masks. So it was still, and the ships were not at 100%. It was still very much touch and go, I would say.
I hear so many creators I have on the show talk about the low capacity cruises. I didn't get to experience any of that, I was a little late coming back. I came back, I think April of 22. I had a cruise scheduled, I think it was January, and then the CDC came out and scared I was going to say something else, scared the heck out of everybody. And I was kind of dealing with some medical care at the time, and so reluctantly made the decision to cancel that cruise. Turns out it was the Omicron variant was what the CDC came out and made this crazy announcement that no one should cruise, but they weren't stopping cruising. Turns out the ship that I originally was booked on, everything went fine. The Omicron variant came and went. I could have kept that booking. So I had to wait a few more months.
Yeah.
And, by the time I got back, they were like booking everybody they could. I mean, it was packed.
It was a weird time for traveling. Those that wanted to travel, that's when people started cruising more than once or twice a year, because they just kept getting these really great deals. And talking to, some of my travel agent friends, they noticed, people just they started doing back-to-backs, and so happy cruising is back. But, to get back to your point of you didn't get to experience kind of the lower capacity cruises, I really enjoyed it. I think, I went on 1 or 2, and they were great for certain reasons, but I felt like people were still on edge a lot. And so I'm really happy that we are back to full capacity, because they're not really holding back on anything. They have all the shows back, everything's back. It's a really great time for cruising.
Yep, feels normal. So you came back on Mardi Gras. Now a lot of people, during that shutdown, there's a lot of pent up demand, and for a lot of people, once cruising started back, I mean, they hit the ground running. They went cruise after cruise after cruise.
Yes.
Are you one of those?
I am. I would say during the pandemic, I was working in a hospital at the time, so I actually had to go to an office every day. So that really limited my travel. It really was. I got 2 vacations a year, and I had to use them wisely. But during the pandemic, I was offered, a work from home remote role with the same company, and it has given me an opportunity to travel a lot more. And I did a back to back to back a year and a half ago. No, it's probably 2 years ago now, and I got that back to back bug. It was really really fun, and if you've never been on a back to back, I would highly recommend it. Even if it's just what I did is I did a 3-night cruise on the Radiance. My back to back, it was 3 nights, 4 nights, and 3 nights. It was only 10, 11 nights, but it was still considered a back to back to back.
I have a back-to-back schedule. It's my first, but it was kind of, what do you say? How do I call it? An accidental back-to-back. It actually was a 14-day. I scheduled it initially as a 14-day cruise. A deal or promotion or whatever you want to call it. I mean, I had to pay for it, where I could get 2 specialty dinners included.
Okay.
But then I learned that after I asked a few questions, if you're going on a 7-day cruise, you get 2 specialty dinners included. If you're going on another 7-day cruise, you get 2 specialty dinners included. But if you go on one 14-day cruise, you only got 2 specialty dinners. You didn't get 4, which was absolutely
Yeah,
stupid to me. And
yeah.
so make a long story short, I ended up booking the same cruise with 2 7-day cruises, just so I can get my 2 additional specialty dinners. So, I had to it was a little hassle, but
Well, it sounds like you did the right thing. I personally enjoy the specialty restaurants as well, and now you get 4, so it's going to be, yeah, it'll be great.
and for 2 people. So
Yeah.
it actually was, when you look at the value, it was worth at least $100.
Oh, definitely.
Talk about, or a question for you, a number of cruise content creators and influencers are getting into group cruises. What's your experience with group cruises?
That's a perfect question. I'm doing my first group cruise. I'm partnering with Derek and Amanda Phillips with Island Time Travel. They are some fantastic friends of mine, and we heard through the grapevine, this was months ago, that the MSC Seascape was going to be coming to Galveston. And I put the bug in Derek's ear. I said, hey, this is an opportunity for us to work together and collaborate. And what do you think about doing the inaugural cruise out of Galveston when they announce whatever ship is coming? And he said, oh man, we're on board. And so a couple weeks go by and they actually announce it. It's the MSC Seascape. And not only is she coming to Galveston November 9th of 2025, they're building a $150 million brand new cruise terminal, parking garage. It's going to be a big ordeal. And this goes to my point earlier about Galveston is growing so fast where I can't wait. And so I've teamed up with the Port of Galveston as well. I have a really, really, really wonderful collaboration with them. But with these group cruises, Paul, it is your opportunity to be a cruise director within your own cruise group. So currently, we've been booking this cruise now since mid-January, and I would say we're at around 110 cabins booked. So that's a fairly large group. And the cool thing about this with MSC, I've never sailed with them before, but they offer the yacht club experience. And so I, of course, paid extra for that because the yacht club experience with MSC it's your adults only retreat. And it is a cruise within a cruise, I have heard, because they have their own private dining rooms, their own private pool, private spa. You get your own butler at your, anytime you want. I'll never need a butler as long as you bring me my ice every day and my, orange juice in the morning. I'm a happy camper. With these group cruises, it's becoming a really big deal. And I've got a lot of really great ideas for the horizon for the cruise group, community. It's gonna be fun.
Okay, well, I was actually just going to ask you to tell listeners who might be interested how they can get a hold of you, as you just kind of did. Is that the best way?
100%. We would love to sell the rest of this ship out, and we've got incredible, opportunities. If you might not know this, but for those that are listening, when you book with a travel agent or with a group cruise, it doesn't cost you a penny. What you get with a group cruise, especially the more people we have, the more things you're going to get. We're going to have a couple of cocktail parties where you get free drinks for an hour. And it's going to be an opportunity for myself and for Derek and his wife with Island Time Travel to just meet and mingle with all of the people that are within our group. We're going to have swag bags for everybody. We're going to have a group shore excursion with another company that I'm really, really close with called Resort for a Day. And we just have a lot of really fun things planned. And if you haven't, if you're curious, definitely reach out to me on Facebook, send me a message, Alex Robertson, and I would love to give you some pricing and some quotes. And it's going to be great.
Okay. And one other thing before we move away from the group cruise, when is it again and what is the itinerary?
So we leave November 9th, 2025. It's a beautiful, pretty much fairly new MSC cruise. It's MSC Seascape. And right now we're leaving out of Galveston, going to Cozumel, Roatan, and Costa Maya.
Okay. Well, there you have it, listeners. So how can listeners follow Alex the Cruiser on social media and the internet? I'm sure you kind of touched on that. What about, are you on Instagram or anywhere else?
I am. I'm on Instagram and TikTok. You can find me there under Alex the Cruiser. And like I said, on Facebook, I just go by my first and last name.
Some great ships coming out in 24, 25. You've already been on Jubilee. Any you are very anxious to try?
Well, like I said a little bit ago, I'm kind of sold out to Carnival, but there are some new ships out already and that are coming out that definitely going to get booked on. I really, really want to try the new Sun Princess. I have heard outstanding things about that ship. There's a pretty good opportunity for me to go on the inaugural sailing next year on the MSC World America. And definitely we've got Utopia of the Seas coming out in the next couple of months. I think it might be out by the time this episode airs, but I really want to check out one of the new Royal Caribbean ships. But what I'm most excited about, Paul, is in 2027, Carnival is going to be coming out with an additional Excel class ship. Now, with that, kind of going back to the group cruise, I am going to work with Island Time Travel, and we're going to be hosting a group cruise on the inaugural sailing. We're hoping for transatlantic, but with the Jubilee, she was supposed to do the transatlantic, but it didn't work out. And so its inaugural sailing was, in Galveston. But we're going to be doing the inaugural sailing, whether it's at a home port in the United States or if the first sailing is going to be transatlantic.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That sounds exciting. I just did my first transatlantic a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, how was it?
Oh, it was great. Although I will tell you that for my wife's sake, the next time we do a very long cruise like that, we won't have so many sea days in a row. She needs land. And this started out with 8 sea days.
Yeah.
Now, we had been on almost a Trans-Pacific before. We cruised from Hawaii to Alaska, and that was even longer than this cruise. That was 16 days, but the most sea days was 6.
Oh, wow.
And she never really complained, but this time, I heard her say, "I need land. And then when we finished the cruise, and it was in Barcelona, our room wasn't, when we checked in the hotel in Barcelona, our room wasn't ready. So I just sat in the lobby, working on the podcast. And my wife, she just had to take a walk. She had to walk. So that's a long answer to your question. I loved it. I think I found my new favorite cruise line. It was on Virgin Voyages.
Oh, that's awesome.
So it was our first transatlantic and our first time on Virgin. Like I said, I think I have my new favorite cruise line. identified. I would go on Virgin again, but we're working on this bucket list, checking off bucket list items.
Yeah.
So we are booked through 25. You know, it's very likely that my first cruise in 26 is going to be something on Virgin Voyages.
Well, I have heard nothing but great things about that cruise line. Definitely, you know, with it being adults only, it caters to a specific crowd. I know you've interviewed Cruise Life Matt before. He's on a Virgin ship right now.
Yeah. He'll be on the show in a couple of weeks. But yes, he's on Virgin.
Yeah, I know, coming up quick. And just seeing his posts. I mean, I think one of his first posts when he got on the ship the other day, he took a picture of all of the different types of tattoos that he could get on the ship, and that's just you know, there's just, it definitely caters to a different crowd. I personally have not experienced Virgin yet, but man, I'm afraid if I go for the first time, I may stick with her the whole time.
You know, every time we stopped, or every time we walked past the tattoo place, if it was open, I went in there, you know, and I was waiting for my wife to kind of say, what are you doing?
I'm shopping.
And, but she never did. So, you know, the tattoos were nice. And you get, you know, obviously you get what you pay for. You can get something pretty extravagant, but you're going to pay for it. But it was nice to think about it. And like I said, I know I'll be on Virgin again. So we'll see.
I can't wait to experience it for the first time.
So what's on your cruise and travel bucket list? Where in the world hasn't Alex been that he wants to go to?
I would say my dream bucket list cruise would be, honestly, probably a transatlantic or trans-Pacific. You know, I know we touched on that briefly a little bit ago, but I think once I venture out to Europe and start cruising in Europe, there's so much to see over there. And I could probably see myself spending a month or two over there, and, you know, during a summer, and just cruise as often as I can. And there's no specific location that I really want to cruise to. I take that back. I would love to go to Iceland and the whole Canada, New England area. I hear those are just outstanding and beautiful cruises to go on. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see how well, you know, the different deals that they have out there.
Yeah, Iceland's on the bucket list. Gonna check that off next year.
And I would say, and I'll add Australia to that. I get cruise deals to Australia all the time with, you know, all of this onboard credit, and, you know, most of these cruises are on the Carnival Luminosa, and I absolutely loved that ship in Alaska. It's just, it costs so much money to get there, and I can't justify it for me spending $2,000 to just fly to Australia on one of the cheaper flights. I think of all of the cruises I could go on in the US for that money. So it's hard for me to branch off to some of those more extravagant cruises, just because a day at sea for me is the best day. So anywhere I'm at, I'm a happy camper.
Yeah, Australia's another one on my crowded bucket list. And
yeah, crowded is the perfect.
Yeah, I don't know when I'm going to check that off. I did a nice show, a woman by the name of Venus. She's not an influencer or anything like that, but she did a bucket list cruise to Australia. And I was just so fascinated by the fact that she chose to go to Australia, and she's not a influencer. I mean, she didn't do this to get likes and get really nice podcasts. And it just made Australia move up higher on my bucket. That's my problem. I talk to all of these people like yourself, and and then I want to do everything that you're doing. You know?
Yes.
Luminosa was never on my radar. Now it is. Before we let you go, Alex, a couple of fun cruise questions, and then perhaps an oddball question. I call it oddball because it's not necessarily cruise related. The first is a pretty easy one. I love this question because it gives me ideas, and then I act on the ideas. So what's your favorite cruise drink and cruise food?
Oh, my favorite cruise drink would definitely be when Carnival has it, Crown and Coke or Crown and Pepsi. You know, Carnival took away Coke products, but they have Pepsi. So any kind of whiskey and Pepsi or anything like that, I'm all for. But if I have a sweet tooth, I love getting a Miami Vice. That is one of my favorites to get, especially when I'm at the beach. And I would say my favorite cruise food. Oh goodness, I love breakfast. Breakfast is one of my favorite meals, and I tell you, I love French toast. I could eat French toast for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But for a dinner item, I would say definitely the lobster tail on Elegant Night.
If you had asked me that question, your drink is the same drink I would have said, right? Miami Vice. Yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh,
One thing
it's
I'm
delicious.
noticing on cruise ships now, it's becoming more and more a trend. They have these machines with pre-mixed pina colada and strawberry daiquiri. So they just to give you that drink, they just hold the glass up to the machine. I would prefer if they made it from scratch.
Me too. Me too. Because, I know they might have made that batch, just a little bit ago, but it kind of takes the experience away. I love to watch them just make the whole thing from start to finish.
Okay, second question. What's your most memorable or funniest or even most embarrassing cruise or port experience?
Ooh, that's a tough one because I could talk all day about most memorable. It's funny because I feel
Yes, it's pretty hard to go on cruises without seeing memorable, picturesque
yeah.
horizons.
Yeah, we could go to the same place every day, but that sunrise and sunset's going to be different. But I would have to say my favorite memory would be the Carnival Jubilee for a couple of reasons. The reason number one is I took my grandparents with me. My grandparents, they have been a humongous part of my life. And I really wanted to have them experience cruising with me. They have not been on a cruise in over 25 years. And for me to, tell them, hey, I'm going to take you on Carnival, they've watched the news, they've seen social media stories where people just diss Carnival. And I said, well, hey, this is on their newest ship. I said, there's not a ship out there that's nicer than this. So I sold them on it. And just to experience cruising with them on one of my favorite ships was so fun. We went to Java Blue every day, and we got coffee. We did shore excursions together, which was so much fun. Just sitting on the balcony with my grandparents and getting to soak in those memories and going to dinner every night. I will never forget that. Now, another reason why this cruise was so memorable is because, like I mentioned before, I work in human resources, and um, before I go on a cruise, I like to do my research on who the cruise director is, who the fun squad is, um, and then I'll just start looking at their pages and kind of familiarizing myself with them. So when I'm on the ship, I can say, "Oh yeah, there's the cruise director. Here's this person." I ended up getting in contact with one of the people who work in human resources on the ship, and I messaged them and I said, "Hey, my name's Alex. I noticed you work in HR, human resources." I said, "I do too," and I always try to say something like, "It would be really cool to get a chance to meet you in person." Well, not only did I get to meet them in person, they gave me a family pass for the week that said crew family. So I essentially had access to everything on that ship. Every door that said crew only, I got to go behind that door. I did not. I did not abuse it by any means. I only used it when I hung out with that employee. But it was such an incredible experience to get to see behind the scenes. She showed me their entire human resources department, and I got to meet everybody in that department. And then I got a chance to see just a lot of really, really cool things like the crew mess. I got a chance to see where the crew can go get their haircut with the barber. I got to the very last night of the sailing, I went into the crew bar and I got to have, drinks with the crew. And it was an experience I will never forget. Getting a chance, I was sitting at the bar. It was around 10:30. The cruise director sitting with my friend that works in HR and some of her friends. And I asked her, I said, "Hey, who is that sitting over there?" She said, "Oh, that's the entertainment director." And a couple of minutes later, the cruise director walked up to me and said, "I've seen your posts all week on Facebook." And he said, what are you doing back here?" And so I said, "Well, I'm friends with the person in HR." And it was just so cool to get to see them in their element because, they work and they live on these cruise ships 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for 6, 7, 8, 9 months at a time. To get to see them kind of take that weight off of their shoulders and just get to be normal people at the end of the day, that meant a lot to me, just to get to see them in their element.
I remember those posts. I even commented. I commented on one, and I knew you were going to be on the show. And, I'd done some research, but I didn't, this is our first time meeting, and
Yes,
it's
sir.
great to meet you and all.
You as well.
But then when I saw those posts, I said, wow, Alex must be large. There must be something about Alex that I didn't pick up in my research.
Well, one of the greatest things in life that I have learned is your answer is no before you ask. So if you don't ever take those chances of, I've reached out to a number of people who have the same profession as me on the cruise ships. And I always just say, hey, let's meet up. I'd love to get a chance to say hi. I've been told no a lot of times. Finally, on the newest and greatest Carnival ship, somebody said yes. And it was, oh man, I'll never forget that. It was the coolest experience.
Well, a related question, so a slightly related question. Do you ever get recognized on cruises?
I did my first time on the morning of leaving on the Jubilee. I always wake up early and I like to go get drone footage of the ships coming in, just to post on my channels and kind of start the cruise day experience. It was 5:30 in the morning, and the Carnival Dream and the Carnival Jubilee were coming in the port of Galveston, and I'm standing outside with my grandfather getting my drone footage. There's probably 10 people out there. And these two gentlemen walked up and said, "Hey, you're Alex, right?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, we've been following you for a couple of months and we knew that you'd be on this cruise." And he said, "I just wanted to shake your hand and say hi." I was so taken back by that. I've never been recognized. It was a very odd feeling. Nick J, I know he gets noticed all the time when he goes on cruises because he has such a distinct voice and he has a pretty good following. So I've heard him talk about getting recognized before, but I never in a million years thought I would be recognized. And then I was recognized again on that same cruise at one of the resorts in Cozumel.
And the thing is, when you got recognized the first time, if I heard you correctly, your granddad was with you.
Yep, he was with me, and it was.
I know you had to feel proud, Alex.
Oh man, it was. I said it was a weird experience, but for him to get to, because he's always asking me, "Hey, if you need any help with anything when it comes to your influencing," he says, "let me know," because he's getting older and he can't travel as much anymore. And so he's really kind of riding this wave with me of being on social media. And I know he thought that was really cool. I told him, I said, "Papa, I've never experienced that ever. And for that to happen with you and at 5:30 in the morning, it was such a pinch me moment. Oh man, it was cool. It was really great.
So when you went back to your cabin, how did your head fit through the door?
Man, I told my grandfather, I said, "I'm trying to be as humble as possible because this is so new for me. I didn't post about it. I only told my family. It made me feel really good. But at the end of the day, we have to continue just doing what we do on a daily basis. And those cool things will happen to us if we just continue to stay humble in what we do and never brag or anything like that."
And you are right. And now you have humbly shared that with the world.
I know great things will continue to come.
Finally, Alex, you have a huge
Yeah, I know,
following.
right?
Welcome to the Alex the Cruiser fans and friends listening. We hope you have enjoyed what you have heard and will come back to the Joy Cruising Podcast to check out other episodes. Alex, share one thing that my listeners and your friends and family don't know about Alex the Cruiser?
Oh, what they don't know about Alex the Cruiser. Okay, so there's two things, one cruising related and one not cruising related. The people who follow me, I can tell you, definitely do not know that I love to barbecue. I have a smoker, and I just love cooking. I can't say I have a specialty, and half the time it's probably burnt or too dry. But man, I love it. It is so fun I kind of self-taught myself with YouTube on how to smoke good meat. And it's with summertime being here, you can find me out there every weekend doing that. Cruising related, something that people don't know about me is I actually kind of gave it away a little bit ago. I do spend a little bit of time in the casino. I would say a little trick if you're looking to get those cruise offers is to spend a couple $100 in the casino. I hit actually a jackpot on my Luminosa cruise last week where I won $2,400. Most people would probably take that money and run as fast as they can to the bank to cash it. But for me, I gave it back because that was free money to put back into the casino. The day I left that ship, I had something in my mailbox on my cabin, and I got a free balcony room pretty much on any cruise I want. I've got some 30-day sailings I can go on, 3-day sailings, and free drinks on the entire ship. That stuff adds up really, really quick, and it will more than pay itself than what I spent in the casino. Right now, I've got 3 free ocean view rooms, 3 interior rooms. I've got a couple free cruises to Australia that I can book. It's just a matter of let's get them booked and let's go. So I try to be very strategic in when and where I cruise to. I like cruising during the school season because they're a little bit less crowded that way, and you can get a lot better deals that way as well. So those are some fun facts about Alex the Cruiser for you.
All right, Alex and Alex's friends and fans, there you have it. You know him. I hope you know him a little better than you knew him before you listened to this podcast. Alex, it is so good to meet you virtually.
Likewise.
Thank you for coming on the Joy of Cruising podcast, and all the best to Alex the Cruiser. And as I like to say, I'll see you on the ocean.
That's right, Paul. Thank you so much for having me anytime. This has been such an incredible opportunity. My very first podcast I've ever been on. So thank you, Paul. I really appreciate you giving me this opportunity today.
The Joy of Cruising and Cruising Interrupted, each $16.99 plus shipping, and new release, The Joy of Cruising Again for $18.99 can be ordered at the link on thejoyofcruisingpodcast.com. For each of the 3 books, use the discount code Joy of Cruising Podcast and get $4 off. The Joy of Cruising books are also available at Amazon. Order the ebook at Amazon or your favorite online retailer. Stay in touch by joining the Joy of Cruising Podcast Facebook group or following the Joy of Cruising Podcast on Instagram. We're constantly adding new shows. Please leave a review and tell a friend about us. We hope you enjoyed this brief escape to the ocean. See you next week.